And I want to talk a little bit about a kind of a life lesson. So we have this graph here, right? And it's a pretty important graph. And what this graph tells you is that there's this time thing here, and there's something good happening over here. And you take something like maybe programming or some computing experience or something that you're passionate about, some experience in a particular field, maybe biology or psychology. And most of us, when we enter college, we think about that we're worried about is that everyone around us is better than us. Like there's someone who always knows more than us, and we're not as good as those around us. And what happens is we start to think that everybody around us is this higher level of knowledge of us, and that they know more things than us. And so we just kind of feel not as good as they are. I mean, we talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago where some people felt that they didn't know as much as others in the course. And so if you think about it and you think, well, what if we started down here? This is how much knowledge we started with, right? And so if we're the red line, you think we don't know very much coming in. And this could be the reality, which is fine. The key point, though, is that even though, let's say this person who's blue, let's say they have this large amount of high prior knowledge of something like programming or something, but they're not putting in as much effort as you are. And every day, the things that they are learning is not as much. And so they get this lower slope, right? They have this slower growth. And then this person down here, and let's say this you, who's actually putting in a little bit extra effort, right? You're putting in more time, you're doing more studying, you're working on more practice problems. Over time, you're putting in more effort. And so every day you add some effort and your slope is more than this other person. And at some point, eventually, maybe during your years in college or maybe even after that, at some point you'll catch up. The most important thing, though, happens after that. Right around here. And then the person who didn't know more now actually has caught up. And now they become better at this thing than the other person, whatever that could mean. So if you're the blue line, you think you already know stuff and you're not putting as much effort in learning things, and you become this blue line, and you're basically almost stagnant. You don't really improve very much. Whereas if you're the red line, you're putting in all this effort, eventually you'll improve beyond the person who isn't putting much effort, even if they know more than you to start with. And so you get to decide the kind of person do you want to be, the blue line person who has a lot of high knowledge but doesn't put a lot of effort in, or the red line person who maybe they don't have a lot of knowledge, but they put a lot of extra effort in, and then their growth in knowledge, they're getting better at something. Their slope on this y-intercept chart is better. So the y-intercept here stands for something that you already know or are good at, but the slope is your day-to-day efforts that you're putting in. And so keep this in mind when you're doing that. Even if you don't know as much as the people around you, by putting in extra effort, you can catch and surpass them and be better at it. This is actually one of the reasons why large companies sometimes get taken over by small companies. Small companies will put in more effort, more time, and large companies will be stagnant, and small companies will catch them and pass them. And it happens. Same thing happens with our knowledge.